My name's Matt Blaze. I'm the chair of the Election Integrity Foundation, which is a nonprofit we formed basically to run the voting village. This year, our talks program is done in partnership with Free Speech for People. Susan Greenhalgh will be talking a little bit about that in a moment. I just want to mention a few things, introducing both the talks and the voting machine lab. We were formed after the 2017 Good Faith Security Research exemption to the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which is every hacker's least favorite law that prohibits reverse engineering of software-based systems, essentially. There's an exemption for good faith security research. In fact, we have somebody from EFF coming tomorrow to talk more about the history of that and what the limitations of that are. And you'll all want to be here for that. But essentially, we were allowed for the first time to get a room full of voting machines and let people loose on them. And so we have a room full of voting machines, and we're going to let you loose on them. Our general rule of thumb is please be careful and only break things in interesting ways. And if you do, tell us about it, because we want to include that in our report, and also invite you back next year to give a talk on what you found and what you did. And in fact, a couple of our talks on the agenda this year came from people who did work at the Voting Village last year. So feel free to break stuff, just do it in interesting ways. So I'm going to turn this over to Susan, and then we'll all introduce ourselves and then get on with our program. Susan, you have a few remarks. The top switch to turn it on.
Is that on? Am I? Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the speakers' talks of the Voting Village that we're calling Separating Fact from Fiction here at the DEF CON Voting Village. I'm Susan Greenhalgh. I'm the Senior Advisor for Election Security at Free Speech for People, and we are so happy to be partnering with EIF on this speakers track. If you're not familiar with Free Speech for People, we are a national nonprofit legal advocacy organization that is committed to protecting democracy and civil rights and the Constitution for all Americans. When we work, among other things, to advance policies to get money out of politics, to oppose corruption in government, and to protect democracy and everyone's right to vote. But we've long known that getting people access to the ballot and getting them the right to vote isn't enough, because if the machines that count their votes aren't counting them correctly, that vote isn't counted correctly, their voice isn't heard, and all that work is for naught. So we've long had a program on election security working on these issues that are exposed in the voting village. And we work for improving the security, reliability, and practices for better elections. And part of that advocacy means that we have to be honest about the state of election systems, and we have to be clear-eyed about their vulnerabilities, and be willing to confront very real threats to our election systems and our democracy. And we hear a lot of discussions today about attacks on democracy and our elections. But regrettably, weaknesses in our election infrastructure have become taboo by the same entities that are sounding the alarm that our elections and our democracy is under attack. So we agree that democracy is under attack, and that's why we're saying with our chest that we can't afford to bury the uncomfortable facts about these machines on which our democracy rests. So we're here today to candidly address those issues, to understand more about it, and to address the gravity of that situation and the consequences of having systems that may have vulnerabilities in them. So thank you all for coming. Over the next 2 days, you're going to hear from experts that have done a tremendous amount of work to understand the truth about our election systems. And you'll hear from the Secretary of State of California, former Secretary of State Deborah Bowen, who is a literal profile in courage. You'll hear about the reality of our post-election audits and how they're strong and how they are not strong, and if they are actually providing evidence that our elections are correct. And you'll also hear about security breaches in our election systems that have been ignored and not addressed. So we're trying to kind of reset the conversation to ground truth about the state of the art right now in election systems. And thank you all for coming and being a part of this process and conversation. Thank you.
So I just want to ask each of our board members to introduce themselves. We'll start here with Kendall.
Thanks so much, Matt. It's nice to have you all here. My name is Kendall Spencer. I'm a member of the EAF board. Been around for more than a couple years now, but yes.
You have to repeat yourself from the beginning now.
Test. Okay. Nice to have you guys here. Thanks, Matt. My name is Kendall Spencer. I'm counsel and also a board member on EIF. I've been around for more than a couple years, I guess now. My legal practice is a montage of privacy, cybersecurity, tech transactions, and corporate M&A. Typically, I would engage the group in a variety of different discussions around civics, what democracy means, because one of the best things about what we do here at this village is we take what happens with the voting machines and we engage regular, everyday people in discussion about what this means in real practice. But we have so many amazing speakers this year that I actually think the best thing to do would be to try to do that offline. So we're going to try to keep those discussions going. You guys have an amazing agenda ahead of you, and so I'm excited to be here, excited to see you guys. As Matt said, if you see something a little iffy, flag me down. I'll be around. So great to have you.
I'm David Jefferson. I'm a board member of the Election Integrity Foundation that's putting this on. I've been doing election cybersecurity work for 26 years now. I've had the privilege of serving 5 Secretaries of State of California in various advisory roles. Spend much of my time studying and writing and speaking about internet voting, and I'll be doing more of that during this conference. Thank you.
Does this work? Hello? How do I know if it's working?
Is the light on?
You're not going to hear it. The light's on.
Yeah, just-
Hi, I'm Kat. I'm the Executive Director of the Election Integrity Foundation and one of the primary organizers of the Voting Village. This is my 5th year organizing the Voting Village. When I first got involved, it was after COVID, and our village had become somewhat of, a sad version of itself. It was like 1,500 square feet. We didn't really have many volunteers. Our speaker track was like 8 people, and with the people sitting here, we've all kind of built it up since COVID and turned it into the fabulous event that you see today. Piggybacking off of something Kendall said, my interest is really making this accessible to the average voter, although I find the average voter to be far from average. I think people are curious, I think people are inquisitive, I think people are smart, and I think that people don't have access to a lot of this information. I think a lot of people don't even understand sometimes the gravity of the vulnerabilities that we're talking about, because oftentimes people don't understand the fundamentals of how our election system works. What kind of voting machines there are, who owns these voting machines, what do these vulnerabilities mean, and how do these things actually play out? So we really tried to turn this into an interactive educational environment where there's no such thing as a stupid question. You get to actually get your hands on a voting machine outside of like an election situation. And so please, there's no question that's too big or too small. If you have any concerns, or if you just want to learn a little bit more about anything, please, please, please come to one of us. We're so happy to be here, and we're so happy to provide the good information to offset some of the bad information that's out there right now. So thank you all so much for being here.
Okay. One last thing I want to mention, because I would be incompetent in my role as somebody in a nonprofit, is to remind you, we are a nonprofit. The Voting Village happens basically because people care enough to support us. We were very fortunate this year to have a major donor that supported things like badges for our volunteers and some travel for our speakers and so on. Buying the voting equipment that you see in the room is all stuff that costs us money. One really great way to support us is to buy one of our t-shirts and hats, which are incredibly sexy. And people will give you a seat on the subway when you're wearing some of our stuff for a mere $40 for a shirt or a hat, or a special sale, $80 for one of each.
Not a sale.
So please visit our merch table because we really depend on that on that support. And also, if you want to donate to us, we have a link. We are a 501c3. Everything is tax deductible. Votingvillage.org. So that's the end of the sales pitch.
Although I will say votingvillage.org also has all of our previous reports, all vulnerabilities, descriptions of voting machines, a lot of good resources there if you want to check it out while you're here at the village.
All right. So we're going to start with the program now. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
No, leave it. Yeah, 'cause we've got a bunch of panels, so yeah.